Check. Check, check. Check.
Can you please sit down? I know it's been a long day, but we're almost done now. So again, thank you everybody for the work you've done today. And we look forward to hearing the results of each workshop and then to collect them to improve the declaration and give the recommendations that all groups have made to the European Commission and the Italian presidency. So I would start with group number 1, digital skills and competencies, and we have here Lucilla and Alessandro who have coordinated the group.
Shall we go?
Yeah.
Thank you. Let me say one introductory remark, which basically is that one of the sensitivity of the first group, which was about the skills and competencies, the digital skills and competencies, I think is commonly shared with all other groups, is that we are at a very specific and important timing, because it's not just for Italy because we have the European semester, but because we have the very beginning of a new era in Europe. Because of course, I mean, we are setting, or we are trying to set the agenda for the next 5 years, not just a few years, not just for the 6 months. And of course, the other concern was that if we are really moving from austerity to growth, I mean, there is no growth without that is not digital. So to some extent, this was the context that we used for the discussion. In terms of more specific content, I mean, we focus on one thing, which is the demand side of the digital issue, because when we discuss about, other groups were discussing and will discuss and report on things like, ease in business, or how we make sure that there are enough services and digital services in the market and these kind of things. We're always discussing about the supply side, but what we can do about the demand side, how we can make sure that there is more demand for digital in the next years throughout Europe. And then we focused more specifically on the education side, and particularly on kids and boys and girls where they are in the school, at school, because there is a place where we can more be intensively proactive, provided that we are able to invent or rediscover some formula that allows us to make sure that digital becomes a priority within schools. And then we focused on a number of things because, for instance, one of the main underlying questions for our workshop was, how do we make sure that we are making people, in the young people of Europe, of Italy and Europe, more skilled and more competent in terms of the digital, because this is important in terms of reducing the mismatch between education and the job market. If we are trying to train and form and educate people that will get to the job market in 10 or 20 years, but actually we don't know what kind of job market we are going to have. And this basically means that we need to invest on soft skills, including in the digital sphere. And for instance, when we approach coding, we discussed a lot about coding, coding, and there were a number of speakers in the workshop telling us about other experiences in UK and other countries, extremely interesting, I must confess. The idea is always that we should not teach how to use this or that program, but how we make sure that we develop some sensitivity and some soft skills about this, because we want to develop competencies that are in terms of computational logic, in terms of how they learn to approach and solve problems differently, and this is extremely important. And the other 2 points that I want to mention is, one is that, of course, I mean, coding, for instance, but in general terms, the digital topic is about how is the new literacy, basically. So in terms of digital literacy, there is a lot to do, because we need to make sure that the digital natives, I mean, that they're not, they need to be trained, they need to be educated, they need to be formed, and because we don't want just digital consumers, we want digital producers, and that again will be important for any job that these guys are gonna find or not find in the forthcoming years. And then the last point, before I leave the floor to my colleague from the European Commission, is about the role that teachers, specifically at schools, but also the wider community, the wider local community that connect around the single specific school may have, because there the problem is that how can we avoid to repeat or replicate a number of mistakes or errors that have been, that you know, some countries, including the one I know best, our commissioners used to say, have done in the past. In terms, for instance, of how do we make sure that teachers are part of the solutions and are not, we stop to see them as part of the problems in terms when we are discussing about topics that are completely new to most of them. And so the idea is that there should be some peer-to-peer training between teachers, because the school is plenty of, there are plenty of natural innovators, and we need to invest on them. And the final point is about the multi-stakeholder actors that are around the school, and in general terms, the new approach to improving skills and competencies for the younger generation. And there the question is that between the national level, so mainly the government, but this may apply hopefully to the European level and the regional level on the one side, and the local level, the difference is that maybe the national government should focus on being an enabler to make sure that, you know, there is a widespread awareness and increasing awareness and the right tools that then, you know, should be targeted to different models and different schools, because it's not a question that one size fits all, but it's more a question that you need to empower those actors within the schools, in the education system more widely, including enterprises, including associations, including parents, including grandparents of these kids, to make sure that there is an energetic approach towards the digital agenda. And this, I think, to conclude, is part of the kind of, I mean, the important thing is that on top of ideas and on top of proposals, we need to find together and exercise like the digital Venice are perfect to and perfectly fitting to the purpose. We do not need to stabilize, because otherwise, you know, we need to bring all those kind of energy and all those kind of proposals outside of these wonderful buildings ahead, a number of years ahead, and we need to make sure that this becomes top priority on the European agenda. And to do this, the national government can do a lot, but more importantly, we need, you know, to create the wave outside the institutions to make sure that this is recognized widely as a top priority. Thank you.
So as Alessandro said, the formal education was recognized as being a very important tool to address the gap for digital skills, in particular looking at the future and the polarization of labor markets. But we also have to address the issue of gaps that is ongoing now. And therefore, it is important that governments look at the whole picture. They have to consider the skills gap for the unemployed, for the people at work, but who are in need of lifelong learning solutions, and also for the civil society at large, who need to participate in the democratic life of the digital economy. So, as it was highlighted as an example for schools, in general, for digital skills, the group highlighted the importance of a multi-stakeholder partnership, and in particular, the fact that action has to take place at the local level, but then enabled at the national level, and somehow inspired by the by the action of the European Commission. And so we heard about the importance of countries setting up national coalitions for digital jobs. These are coalitions which include ministries such as the education ministries or the employment ministries, but also ICT associations and business chambers and other social partners. And some of these coalitions are already being created under a European initiative called the Grand Coalition for Digital Jobs, but they are considered to be a very important instrument, not only for the training of ICT professionals, but also for addressing issues such as digital skills for the digital divide, and also for people at work, as I said earlier, but also as an instrument that can maybe bring education and businesses even closer together. So the group asked that the new college, the new commission, continues with the Grand Coalition, and also strengthen the role of the national coalitions for digital jobs and brings them into a network. A network that could exchange best practices and therefore strengthen their role. Important to think that and to say that an important statement that was made was that we should not aim to educate users but to educate creators. And this is linked, if you want, with the coding point that was made earlier. But also an important addition was that no one, however, should be left behind. So we should really take into account all the different parts of society. The proposal was made about the development of the signing up of a Bill of Rights, Bill of Internet Rights maybe, where then governments would have the task to make sure that skills are provided so that people can exercise the internet rights. And also some initiatives that are taking place under the field of e-government, for example, digital by default, where all the government services will be online, could also be drivers for inclusion strategies that make sure that all the citizens have the right tools to access these services. Just one final point on the importance of taking into account the gender issue into these policies, both for coding but also for the role of women in ICT. Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you. And Opla. I hope that it's not saying something, but it's probably only the wind. Thank you very much. I think they deserve a big applause. And group number 2, Digital Economy for Growth and Jobs. Andrea Gumina here to speak for the group. And please, group number 3, Alberto, if can start coming on the floor, please.
Yes, thank you, Alessandra. Thank you all. We had a lot of ideas coming from our workshop, additional ideas in respect to the declaration. I took notes for 3 hours. Maybe I will forget something, but forgive me, okay? The main point is that there isn't a digital economy. Every economy, the economy is digital itself now. So there is a strong request to act in order to set up all the conditions at an European level to make small, medium enterprises as well as large enterprises act together in an ecosystem. The first thing that I noticed is that there is an interesting idea that in order to obtain advantages from this 4.0 revolution, we'll need to set up the 3 internets. The internet of data, the internet of transport, and the internet of energy. So to rationalize and to set up a single market, not only in the field of telecommunication, but also in the field of energy and transportation. And that will be a crucial issue at the European level. That make me underline the fact that another issue is that, of course, setting up these infrastructures needs money. Needs money and a policy to be set up at a European level and not at a country level. So the coordination of efforts among different member states in order to set up an infrastructure and an industrial policy should be on the agenda, and that's the second important point. Other points that have been stressed I refer to competences. We have to manage the possibility from younger people, from younger generation, and also from younger companies to take part to decision, to governance. That means 2 things. For one of the idea, for example, is to make competent people, not only young people, of course, be part at least as 10% of board in large companies, as well as government, as well in bureaucracy. The other idea is to foster the way that large companies help smaller ones, even with training programs, and help youngster generation in order to understand how they can act as entrepreneur of their self and entrepreneur is in a new ecosystem. Another idea, and I'm going to finish, is to set up bridges between different parts of this ecosystem. And finally, I would like to stress that maybe a review on how regulation on taxes will be raised up at European level in order to avoid beggar the neighbor conflicts will be important as well. Finally, also to an idea that I'd like to stress to Undersecretary Gozzi is that as the need to enforce the declaration that we set up today, as well as the annex, is very strong. From many parts, they suggest us to have another meeting, maybe on late September, together with main stakeholders, in order to make us aware, the government aware, or what stakeholders can do in order to help government to set up all the points of the declaration on the annex. And maybe we should be hosted by the Digital Economy Forum, on September the 29th, and Mettler gave us this opportunity, and this could be an idea to discuss.
Thank you, Andrea.
Thanks.
An applause to Group 2 too.
Thank you.
And Salvo Mizzi and Stefano Firpo for group number 3, and please Andrea and Fabrizio come over for group number 4 so we don't then lose the time for change of chairs. Salvo? So group number 3 was Startup Europe, and there was also the Startup Europe initiative there.
Thank you.
Well, Stefano, we just defined some focal point on 4 main issues. We started with funding, not only, of course, with the ecosystem and the relation between corporate and large corporation and startups. The third one was education, of course, and I think that Stefano, if you can suggest our output, the basic output on also the general institutional framework, starting from Italian experience with
Yeah, let me just start with really some very short remarks that I think that are key. First, one of the key topics here is that I think we will grow in Europe only by fostering innovation and entrepreneurship. And these are 2 words, 2 key words, innovation and entrepreneurship, which have constantly to be in mind of policymakers if we want to revamp European industry. Startups are at the crossroads between innovation and entrepreneurship. And when I talk about startups, I'm not just referring to the important field of digital startups, but I mention and I refer to all innovative startups, active in all kinds of fields. Secondly, what is important to understand is that startups is not a niche. They are at the core of industrial policy because they are capable to reap the benefit of the disruptive technological revolution which is underway. So they should be considered as that, as something which is at the core of the European industry by European policymakers. If you want to help companies to start up and to scale up as quickly as possible, we need a clear European framework. For sure, we have to build on existing sound initiatives, such as, just to mention a few, the Startup Europe Partnership and the Startup Europe. These are the two important building blocks where we can build on. Within a clear European framework, as Salvo was mentioning, policymakers should focus on four main targets. First, what is key is to enable ecosystem to grow and to expand. The richness and the concentration of ecosystem is a key driver to help startup to grow and scale fast. Second, as Salvo was mentioning, access and availability of funding is also a key driver. And Europe should catch up on venture capital and angel investor, where we are lagging behind, and should be at the forefront in terms of the new regulation on equity crowdfunding. Third, we should enrich all kind of relationship between traditional firms, particularly medium and large corporates, and startups in terms of procurement, acquiring, acquisition, and exits. And four, which is a key thing, which was addressed by group number one, is access to talent and education, which means, and I totally agree with the outcomes of group one, also a different approach to e-skills and an approach which is consistent with the evolution of coding procedures. I think that we hope that the startup, and particularly also the consideration in the Startup Manifesto, which we consider a very good starting block, can be endorsed by the next European Councils.
Thank you. Workshop number 4, the digital life in the digital single market. Andrea Rigoni and Fabrizio Gentile, thank you.
Thank you. We will try to be short as Alessandra asked to us, so there's like Twitters. So what was the angles of the analysis of our discussion was the quality of the experience for the digital citizen, so the users in the center of the design of the digital single market. Main point, first point, the importance of the infrastructure. We know the infrastructure are necessary to sustain the request of the user. We know that new standards are coming, new possibilities are coming, that it's possible to have new experience in our tools, in our mobiles, in our smartphone. An example is the high definition, another example is the change of the paradigm of internet. Now we will have the Internet of Things. So we need to respond to the requests of the users, so we need to have a strong infrastructure. And possibly, the best possible solution could be to have a blend of infrastructure in order to maximize the potential experience of our citizens. According to this strong new network, what is really important is the quality of the services. And this is essential, especially when we think about the use of these instruments in mobility. If you remember, if you try to think when the problem you can have using your smartphone when you are trying to see some videos and so on. And of course, to do this, we need to take care that in the next future we will have a lot of new services that will consume a lot of bandwidth. Then we realize that the regulation is necessary, but this kind of regulation has to be clever and has to consider the fact that the fast changes in the technology. So we have to be smart enough as a regulator to take care of this issue considering the evolution of the technologies. According to what is on the network and the content, copyright is an issue, is the main issue possibly. So,
excuse me, there's too much noise over there. I know there is a storm outside, but we really need to finish the statements of the groups.
So thank you. I insist on copyright. As I say, copyright is an issue. You know, all of you know what are the problems at European level for copyrights. Copyright has to be considered as a way to encourage the freedom of expression, not the contrary. And we have to realize that it's no more possible to deal with the online copyright using the same tools we used with the offline copyrights. So there is a sort of request to encourage the European Commission to think to an holistic reform of the copyright systems using the step-by-step approach in order to be more phased respect to the evolution of the technology. So then I will pass to Andrea.
Another key point that has been emphasized during our workshop was the need of trust and security. This is a key aspect. It has always been a key aspect, but right now, after the very loudy discussions on surveillance and the use of internet, now we must guarantee to the European citizens a free access to digital services that are secure by definition. When you board an airplane, when you board a flight, you don't want to have discussions on security. You want to feel safe and secure. So security must be embedded in every service that we design. As an emotional reaction to the international discussions on security, some governments started considering a segmentation of the internet, is also referred as the Balkanization of the internet. This is a very risky approach as it could dramatically change the nature of the internet. It could dramatically change those fundamentals that made the internet, so successful. Therefore, we need to see security and trust as enablers, not as barriers. That's the incredible opportunity that we have also in the Italian semester, finally joining data protection and security. For many years, we had separate debates on data protection and separate debates on security. We have now the opportunity to merge them because citizens and companies, they want both. They want to protect their information, but they also want to have a better and more secure access to digital services. This is also related to copyright, and let me, slightly translate that. We need to protect the made in EU. There are some numbers disclosed, for example, by the Dutch government, where they calculated that the yearly cost to the Netherlands of not protecting the intellectual property of the country is equal 1% of the GDP. That's an incredibly high number. Last but not least, we have been talking about harmonization and the ecosystem. There are areas where harmonization is not enough. We need one single approach. And let me refer specifically to an example, electronic ID. We have now with the eIDAS, we have an harmonization of security and trusted services, but we don't have one single way of identifying in the digital space European citizens. And this is not good. It would be incredibly beneficial to European citizens to have one single digital identity. We need this kind of interoperability, and it's not just respecting 27 different implementations and trying, to make them work together. Internet doesn't work that way, When we talk about an IP address, that's an IP address, no matter if it's Italy or France or Germany or Latvia. So in certain areas, we need, to go and overcross the harmonization and work on a single approach.
Thank you. Last but not least, group number 5, Smart Government, led da Guidi and Stefano Pizzicannella. Here they are. I think we've lost somebody. It's probably Thank you, Leda.
Our workshop have two souls. Two souls. One about, the first part was about smart government, the second part about the modernization of the public administration, and how, about how these two topics can combine, and one is, in a certain sense, the condition for the other. We had two, in the first part, two speakers, and about two European projects, one about the cloud, and it's Cloud for Europe, Linda Strick from Fraunhofer, and the other one about the standardization platform for the standardization of services, e-services, that was held by Catherine Weigand. The two speakers, in a certain sense, underlined the fact that the most important thing in this kind of international European project is the long-term sustainability and the legal framework. So how the national legal framework can fit in the European one, and how they have to be harmonized at the European level to give the possibility that this European level can go down for the service also at the regional and city level. Another contribution was from myself about the experience of my city of Bologna, and how to set how is the role of the metropolitan city, the urban dimension in general, in this combination of setting up a smart environment in the urban, in metropolitan area, and the modernization of public administration. And the crucial thing, also underlined by our chair, Robert Madeline, is that we are obliged in a positive sense to bring the civic value into the process. It's not matter to, it was said before, to the digitalization of existing service, to bring digitalization into all levels of administration, that is necessary, of course, but to change mind, change mindset, change paradigm, and it's called a kind of paradigm shift in what in this shift, the role of the public administration, the civil servant, the functionary, and all the, let's say, bureaucracy, it's important. So change culture, change mind, and change the approach, and see the citizens and the users and the external part, the external world as a partner and not as a user. A partner in co-design services, a partner in co-design policy, because the solution or the possible solution it's outside together with us. So we have to change the way we think the governance and the model of governance. The second part was mostly focused about the modernization of public administration, and we had Pia Marconi and Veronica Cretu from Italy, presidency of the Consiglio dei Ministri, and Veronica Cretu from the OGP, Open Government OGP Partnership, And in both of these cases, was underlined the importance of international network, how the European and international relationship can change the mind of the single country at all levels, from the central level to the city level, and how this initiative, networking initiative, can help to, let's say, overcome the gap between the different countries and the different experience. And can help also in setting the agenda of innovation. Three recommendations, important recommendations from our chair. I keep mostly two. I can repeat it. It's bring civic value into our organization and bring also passion in our job, in our work, in our daily work, because it's important to maintain the profitable and successful relationship with citizens. I want to share with you this initiative that is a high-level group for the modernization of public administration set up by the Commission, this initiative that will take place in December in Rome, that bring together all the Ministry of Modernization, in charge of modernization of public administration, organized by the President of Consiglio dei Ministri, Italian Consiglio dei Ministri.
Thank you. Thank you, Leda. And applause. And the Undersecretary Gozzi will finish our works and hopefully bring them forward to the following 6 months of the Italian presidency. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you to you all. It has been a really very exciting day. For me, very exciting 2 days because we started yesterday. I don't know if we are witnessing the third industrial revolution, as Gemma Rifkin told us in the meeting of this morning, but certainly I'm sure that we are acting today for change. We are acting today for change in Europe because it is clear that the real driver for change is the digitalization of the European Union. And also we are acting for change because we are doing this in dialogue and in very, very tight consultation between those who are the policymakers or those who are the actors on the front line. So the private enterprises, the private business, and I think that this is a very good way of starting a semester, which for us it is not simple 6 months, but it will be the first 6 months of 5 years of a legislature of change, 5 years of a new political cycle. And this is why we attach such a greatest importance to your ideas. I will come back in 4 minutes, don't worry, on your main suggestion, but these suggestions are important not only in operational terms, because we want to deliver at the European Council in October, and we want to deliver also at the Competitiveness Council in November, but especially and mostly because we want to launch a new political cycle. We need a fresh new start in Europe. And we need this fresh new start because the call for change has emerged so strongly in the last European election, has emerged so strongly in your working groups, has emerged so strongly this morning that we have the duty to listen and to act consistently. Certainly starting how this change starting from digital education and digital literacy. Certainly the proposal of the first working group on this go toward the right direction for 2 reasons. Because these are a very important boost for growth, but also because they make ourselves fully aware European citizenship. And you cannot be today a fully aware European citizens if you are not digitally aware. So the digital awareness, even before the digital education, the digital literacy, should be one of our goals, and it is one of our goals at national level. We want to turn it into a real European priority. And by the way, this is our way of living the European participation of our government to Europe. For us, Europe is a multiplier for reforms and a multiplier for opportunities. And as we are firmly committed to pursue our national reform agenda, we consider the semester and we consider our participation in the new political cycle of Europe as a multiplier for reform and a multiplier for opportunity. So the two things goes together. And this is in terms of cost reduction, in terms of new investment, and in terms of more security. And these are the three priorities which along the line were the golden thread of your working groups, the golden thread of your interventions. And on this we have to build up our action. To do what? Certainly to pursue our effort to build up a true digital single market. And for this, we need a responsive regulatory framework in which digital goods and service can freely circulate. That's certainly the first answer, the first way to advance and to answer to the right call for reduction cost in Europe, reduction cost in the European market. A way of answering to this, it has been also recalled by Commissioner Kroes, opening one of your working groups is certainly to move ahead with the connected continent package. And from that package, some of the answer will come, and we want to deliver on this by the Competitiveness Council in November. However, cost reduction and the legislative work is not enough. You underline very rightly the importance of infrastructure. On that, we have to be serious with ourselves. There is a strategic document for the 5 years called Van Rompuy document, on which we have been working. Matteo Renzi has been working very hardly at the end of June. In that document, there is a clear commitment of 28 heads of state and government to promote a new investment policy at European level, notably for telecom infrastructure and notably for the digital agenda. It is clear that we cannot talk about digital growth, we cannot talk about digital opportunities, we cannot talk about a European digital agenda if we don't mobilize the financial resources and if we don't develop new investment plan to make these things real. And the full implementation of that part on investment plan of the Van Rompuy document is the biggest answer to many things that many of you have said today, and we are fully committed on this, and we want to take some step ahead already during our semester. Much has been said on the startup, and it is true, as one of the rapporteurs says, startups are at the crossroad between innovation and entrepreneurship. A European startup environment to facilitate relations between startups and existing business is certainly very important. This is a job, here you got a clearly job sharing between the national action, the national legislative action, and the European strategy, but certainly we have to consider, notably in some member states, new innovative financial instruments such as the equity crowdfunding or such as the business angels model, which has been mentioned by some of you. Modernization of public administration is very important. For us, the focus goes to the smart cities, not only building on good practices, on the best practices already existing, but also focusing on smart cities as a priority, policy priority level, and a policy priority for the use of our structural fund at national level. And that's certainly another main axis that also your report confirmed to be followed. On security. On security, it is true. We cannot imagine digital services that are not secure, as we cannot imagine a flight that is not operated in compliance with safety and security standards. But here, still much work has to be done. We have to fully implement. We have to take seriously our document. Notably, we have to take seriously our fundamental rights. And in the Charter of Fundamental Rights, the right to security and the right to privacy and data protection are clearly enshrined as two fundamental rights of EU citizens. We have to deliver. And in the new legislature, we have to implement what is written in the EU Charter, which is a very advanced document, but it's a charter which still remains very much on paper. And we would like to turn the EU Charter not from paper, to translate it from paper to policy action and legislative commitment at EU level and at national level. Certainly this is very much true for the digital agenda. On copyright, according to my information, the European Commission is supposed to publish a white paper at the end of July. We are looking forward to reading this paper. If it's not at the end of July, we hope it will be at the end of August. At the latest, at the beginning of September, it is clear that we want to work on the white paper of the Commission on the copyright in order to prepare the ground. We do not think that some legislative initiative can be taken by the end of the year, because this is very much a matter for the new European Commission and its right of initiative, but certainly on the basis of the white paper we can prepare the ground for an important legislative initiative in 2015. And we would like to work together with the European Commission toward this objective. Last but certainly not least, even if it's the trickiest issue, but it is essential to tackle this issue at European level, is taxation. It's true, you know what the difficulties are, you know what the protectionist barriers are, you know how many vested interests there are. It is clear that the only right, the only right level playing field is European field. We have had a very hot debate in Italy on web taxation at national level. We have decided, Matteo Renzi has decided clearly to tackle this issue at European level. Here, this is a litmus test. This is a litmus test for everybody. If we are serious with what we say today, if really the digital agenda, the European digital agenda, is a joint effort, if it is really true that it is the fruit of a positive and synergic partnership between public and private sector, well, everybody must take a step ahead and tackle without protectionist attitude, without too strong vested interest, the issue of taxation, because it is a real issue that we have to solve at a European level. We, and I conclude, we are fully committed to take on your suggestion, to take on the key point of the Venice Declaration. We will take it fully into account your proposal, the proposal also of modification of additions to the Venice Declaration, which has been made this morning. We will circulate the final text before the summer break, Roman summer break, so before the 10th or 11th August, not the Brussels summer break, not before the 24th of July. And we want and we will work in order to have a paragraph in the conclusion of the European Council on the new effort for the digital agenda, and we would like to make the October European Council the Digital Council. We have the Economic Council, which is the Spring European Council, where we take stock of the economic situation, macroeconomic situation, and so on and so forth. We would like to do the same for the digital agenda with the October Council. This is our effort, this is our commitment. We want to connect the dots. We want to connect the dots to relaunch Europe through the digital agenda. It will be much faster and much easier to deliver on this, and we want to go faster. We want to go fast because European citizens are calling for change, and there is no time to waste. Thank you very much, and see you soon.
Thank you, everybody. There is a shuttle to take you to San Marco Rialto. We look forward to seeing you at dinner tonight at Pescheria Rialto. And don't forget tomorrow, collateral events, e-skills and data and tourism at Telecom Future Center at the University of Ca' Foscari. Thank you.